Hey guys, Dragonite13 here, and I just wanted to make a quick video sort of giving my thoughts and opinions on Resident Evil VII. Now that's finally come out. Been waiting for it for a couple months and finally got to play it. Played through the whole thing, and what did I think? Well, I thought it was really good. I thoroughly enjoyed that game. Now, is it perfect? No, there are a couple things that bother me, but on the whole, it's a really, really good game. And it's a very welcome callback to what Resident Evil used to be before 4, 5, 6, etc. Brought the action focus into it. Now, if you're worried about spoilers or anything, the footage I'm going to be putting over this is only from like the first hour and a half to 2 hours of the game, so you won't be seeing that much. Now, granted, this isn't a very long game. My first playthrough took me somewhere about 8 to 9 hours, if I'm remembering correctly. Closer to 8.5, I think. So it's not a very long game. It's long in terms of classic Resident Evil standards, because in classic Resident Evil, like your first playthrough might be somewhere about 5, maybe 7 hours. For a first time through a game when you're like learning where everything is, but this one's a bit longer than that, so that's a bit welcome. But this does feel like a very classic Resident Evil. It's got the exploration aspect of it, where you're in this house, and I love the Baker Plantation. I think it's a very, very neat location, and walking through that place, like discovering what rooms are where, it really gave me that old school feeling that I'd been missing from this series for a long time. And it's got the exploration. You go in a room, you look around, scavenging for items, you find keys that you can use to open doors, and then you might find a door that you can't open now, but then much later you find a key for it, so then you can backtrack to that door to open it. And then a lot of times you'll encounter locked doors that you don't have the key for. You're not going to find the key for it for a long time, and then you'll come back to it later. Sort of like the helmet doors in Resident Evil 1. Like, those things are locked for like most of the game, but you find them like right away. So I don't know. I very much enjoyed that aspect of it, like, because like that feeling of exploring, finding keys to help you progress, to go back to different rooms that you couldn't open before. That feeling is very Resident Evil to me, and they brought that back very well. And I thought the Bakers themselves were very interesting characters. I thought, granted, maybe a little bit cartoonishly evil at times, especially Jack, but on the whole, them and their story was very interesting, and I enjoyed sort of like through the files and everything, sort of learning about their descent into madness and what happened to them. Again, I'm not going to go into details about that. You can find out for yourselves if you're so curious. Now, if I had to pick a negatives, if I had to be nitpicky, I would say, one, there needs to be more enemy variety, because really there's only like 2 enemies you're going to be facing throughout the game: the Bakers themselves and the Molded. And the Molded are not zombies, they're kind of zombie-like, but they are everywhere. You will be encountering the Molded so much, and your first encounter or two with them is very tense, freaky, and like scary, but by the end of the game, when you're seeing Molded, you're like, oh Jesus, these guys again. I mean, granted, there's only so much you could do to keep them, to keep sort of the tension going throughout the whole game. Even like some of the classic Resident Evil still had problems with this, where like your first encounter with a certain enemy might be like, oh Jesus, what is this thing? But by the end, when you see them, you're like, oh hey, it's you. Well, that's not to say the Mold is the only other enemy you'll encounter. That's right. There's, in the old house, you don't encounter any Molded, but you encounter bugs, which are even less threatening than the Molded. More annoying, but less threatening. But the Bakers themselves are good enemies. Like Jack, Jack is man, the first encounter with Jack, it's very tense because you don't have anything to defend yourself with. You just have to run and hide and try to like sneak past him, and it's a very tough but very cool sequence. But and then after that, you do get weapons later on, so you can't, if you want to, you can fight the Bakers off if they find you. But usually it's better to just continue running and hiding, which does feel a bit more Clock Tower-ish than Resident Evil in that respect. But I can forgive it. I can forgive it because at the end of the day, it is a scary game. It's like, minus the Bakers, everything else is not only, you know, going back to horror, but it's going back to a classic Resident Evil feel. I keep saying that, but it's true. This is going back to a more classic style. And that's what I really appreciated about it. And I had a lot of fun with it. Now, some people had issues with the pacing of the final part of the game, and I could definitely see why. I didn't mind it as much. I do admit when things got a bit more linear than the sort of open exploration of the house, that did kind of bug me. But the, I guess the second last area, well, the last one's pretty linear, but the second last area I felt was open enough that it was an interesting sort of like quote unquote final area. And another negative I would have to say is the endings, because there's two endings. Again, I'm not going to go into too much detail. There's two endings, and you make a choice about which ending you're going to get. Probably at least another hour and a half to 2 hours before the ending actually happens. And of course, there's no takebacks. So either you have to keep a save to like just before the choice happens, or you have to start the whole game over to see the different ending. And the endings aren't really all that different in terms of like what you do and such, but it's I mean, and most of that is just me being nitpicky. I did have a lot of fun with this game. Like I was engrossed in this. Like I played it all night. I didn't even really notice how much time was passing. But but to wrap this up, it's a very good game. I definitely enjoyed it. I love how they're scaling it back and they're going back to what made Resident Evil, and that's good. I do kind of hope that they keep going with this. Like, I hope this gets a positive enough reception that they'll keep in this focus. But I mean, I'd still prefer a third-person game over first-person, but the first-person works. Don't get me wrong, first-person works. I'm just nostalgic for the third-person camera angles, I guess. But if I had to give it like a number to Resident Evil, like I generally don't like think about it this way, but if I had to give it a number, I'd give it like an 8.5 or a 9 out of 10. It's really good. It's short, and there's so replay value if you're like doing normal modes. Madhouse is supposedly, like, I don't know to what extent, but it like changes the locations of items and such. So that would be worth a replay, definitely. But if you're the kind of like after you beat Resident Evil 1, for example, and then you never felt the urge to touch again, you're not going to get any more replay value out of this. But I did like it. I'm definitely going to be playing more of it, and I hope they keep going like this. Alright, I'm kind of rambling here. I'm repeating myself a lot, so I'm just going to cut it off here. But those are my general thoughts on Resident Evil 7. A very good game. Some minor issues that I wish they could have fixed, but it makes me hopeful for what they could do for the future. Alright. Thanks for putting up with me for 10 minutes. This is Dragon Knight 13 signing out. Later.